My days of breaking into places and stealing stuff are over. What do you want me to do?
I want you to break into a place and steal some stuff.
Makes sense.
Hello friends, my name is Stevie Cade and welcome to Film Trigger. The new Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania trailer has just landed and honestly, I haven't watched it yet, even though I am really looking forward to the new movie. Some trailers I just stay away from because I'm really eager to see the film, and this is one of those films. But since there is some buzz going around Ant-Man, and I remember how much I love the original movie, I wanted to go back, revisit it, and give it an official review. But before we get started, if you could, hit the like thumbs up button, the subscribe button, and the little bell ding thing so you get notified every time I upload a new video. All right, without further ado, let's dive into my review for Ant-Man. If memory serves me correct, Ant-Man was about the time the MCU started becoming more unique, a little less grounded than Iron Man and Captain America, and we started diving into the fantastical side of the MCU. And honestly, I never heard of Ant-Man before this movie. I didn't know anything about Ant-Man. When I first saw the poster and heard of the concept, I was like, what the fuck is this thing? This movie's gonna bomb. I thought the same thing about Guardians of the Galaxy. I was wrong on both fronts, and I'm very glad that I was, because I really like good movies. I mean, who doesn't, right? Enough banter, let's get on with what I do like about this film. Number one, this is overall just a very fun movie to watch. It's got entertaining characters, it's got a spot-on cast, it's funny, and it creatively uses its bonkers concept to heighten all of these things. And on top of that, it's just a great movie for the entire family.
So you need to know how to punch.
You want to show me how to punch? Show me how to punch.
That's how you punch.
And when it comes to terms of the MCU movies, the Ant-Man series has always been known to be the palate cleanser between the big Avengers movies. And that's exactly what this film is. And that's why I like about it. We don't have to worry about all the other Avengers, all that debacle that's going on, at least not for this movie. And what makes this movie a really easy watch is the cast of characters. This movie was perfectly cast, and one of those perfect casts is Paul Rudd. The dude's funny. He's an everyman. He brings a pleasant and charmful performance whose comedic timing is spot on, but not too heavy, which is a good thing because sometimes comedy can get a little, people can run away with comedy a little too easily. And this movie could have easily done that because there are a lot of comedy bits into it and a couple of funny characters, but they're not stepping over each other's toes. The jokes are tasteful and they're not piled up on top of one another. Another one of these great castings and comedy relief characters is Michael Peña's role in the film. He follows suit with that same comedic timing, but it's not too heavy. It fits the tone of the movie perfectly, and he adds that cherry on top of the comedy cake.
I was at a wine tasting with my cousin Ernesto, and he tells me about this girl, Emily, that we used to kick it with. It was actually the first pair of boobs that I ever touched.
It's the wrong details. It has nothing to do with the story.
Another great casting was Michael Douglas. He brings the grit to the movie and has a matter-of-fact way of thinking. He kind of grounds the film a little bit, even though the film is pretty outrageous for what it is, and he brings a powerhouse with him and translates it through his character, Hank Pym. And then there's another character, Hope Pym. Listen, I'm not going to put her on what I like or what I'm on the fence about. She was there. She didn't really have much to do in the movie. She did okay. So, honorable mention, I guess. But we will discuss part of her character a little later in this review. Another thing I like about this movie is on its surface, it's a heist movie. And who doesn't like a good heist movie? Heist movies are fun. Are they going to get away with it? Are they not? Who knows? We'll find out. But that's not what I'm specifically talking about. What I'm talking about is the real heart of the film, and that is the relationship between Scott Lang and his daughter Cassie. This is the heart of the movie. This is the glue that holds this movie together. Even though this is a heist film, I consider it more of a family coming together film, a redemption story, if you will.
You're different. And I believe everyone deserves a shot at redemption. Do you?
Absolutely.
And that's the part of this movie that I really enjoy, and also what makes it a very strong, family-friendly movie to watch. This aspect actually humanizes Scott a little bit, and it brings him down to a grounded level, even with all the crazy shenanigans that's going on in this film. It keeps a balance between being too crazy and too much grounded in reality. It's right in the middle there. And I think the relationship between him and his daughter really holds that together. And also the aspect of a split family actually working out in the end, I think is a phenomenal addition to the movie. Mrs. Doubtfire is another one of those movies that does that the parents don't always have to get back together. You can live happily but not together. I think that's a very important key factor to this movie and one of the many things that I enjoy about it. Another thing I really enjoy about this film is like the shrinking effects and how they shot that, because listen, we've all seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, right? It's a fun movie, great movie for its time. I think it came out like 89. You go back and rewatch that, the effects are not very good. You can tell this is a prop ant. You can tell that's a prop leaf. It's definitely outdated. So I'm glad they shot this movie the way they did, because the shrinking effects could really get wonky really fast, but they do a really good job keeping this as realistic looking as possible. And one of the main ways they do this is focusing on the foreground of the shot, but keeping the background a little bit blurry. It keeps your attention to the main thing that's going on, and you're not distracted from little discrepancies or unrealistic, uncanny valley things could happen if that background wasn't as blurred as it was. And I thought that was a very smart and unique idea to make Ant-Man look, well, realistic.
Did you think you could stop the future? You're just a thief! No, I'm Ant-Man.
And another part of the effects that I really enjoy is the de-aging of Michael Douglas. I thought this was very well done. I only noticed just a little bit of uncanny valley around the mouth area, and that's because I'm looking for it. I know they de-aged him because he's like 70 in the movie, and then all of a sudden he's 30 again. And me growing up with Michael Douglas, that is Michael Douglas I grew up with. I thought it was fantastically done. And honestly, if I had a time machine and can pluck this little part of the movie out and go back into the 80s and show somebody in the 80s this little clip, they wouldn't even question its authenticity. And trust me, the de-aging thing is not an easy thing to handle. Remember that Spartan piece of shit movie with Sylvester Stallone that came out in 2022? Holy God, the de-aging was so bad in that movie. And it's 8 years newer. So there's a little perspective for you of how badly that de-aging thing could go. And the last thing I really enjoy about this movie is the final battle scene. I thought the final battle scene where they're all shrunken up playing in Cassie's room, or not playing, fighting in Cassie's room. What an epic ending and a perfect ending to this movie. I mean, it's such a serious, high stakes ending, but yet it's still playful. It's happening on a kid's choo-choo set. But there are some things I'm on the fence about when it comes to this movie, and one of the biggest things I'm on the fence about with this movie are the rules. They clearly lay out the rules of this world, how this works, how that's gonna work, how the suit will shrink you down, but your density is the same. So when you punch somebody, even though you're the size of an insect, you still have the density and strength of a full-size human, basically.
When you're small, you have superhuman strength. You like a bullet.
They break the rules constantly in this movie. A prime example, if the shrinking tech is true to its nature and everything that it shrinks is still just as dense as it was when it was big, how is Hank Pym carrying around his tank keychain? Doesn't quite make sense, does it? It would still be the weight of an actual tank, but he's carrying it around in his pocket. They're breaking the rules for plot convenience, and that happens a lot in this movie. Here's another example. Anytime Ant-Man is small and he's walking or crawling on somebody, that should be about 170 pounds worth of weight every step that he takes. But we forgive that they break those rules because it's entertaining. But still, if I'm diving down this rabbit hole, you have to know I make a point. And it goes the other way as well. Like when Thomas the Tank Engine, whatever the fuck, when it becomes bigger and it drives through the wall, technically, per the rules, that tank is actually still just a light piece of plastic because it's a child's toy. But they constantly break the rules of the movie until Ant-Man punches somebody. Another thing I'm on the fence about when it comes to this movie is the main antagonist, Darren Cross. I mean, he was a bad guy, right? A bad guy doing bad guy things, and that's about it. Like, I had no investment into the character. I didn't really find his story believable. I didn't really care much about it. He was just there, and it worked. It got me through the movie, and it had a nice little battle at the end. But as for like his master plan and what his goals were, I didn't really give a shit about it all. They didn't sell me on it. The last thing I'm on the fence about when it comes to this film is its originality. On the surface, this movie is very original and creative. It comes across, but then you start noticing little MCU formulas and storylines that seem a little familiar. You have Hank Pym, who has a foundation implanted deep into the MCU mythology because he was there years ago in the early stages with his heroic antics as the Ant-Man. And then he disappears for years just to come back into the modern times. Sounds a little familiar. You have Hank Pym, the scientist, the inventor, the genius. And then we have the Pym particle, the highly advanced formula that makes the shrinking tech possible that nobody can appropriately recreate. Not fully, not without some weird wonky things happening. Except for Hank's right-hand man, who essentially steals the formula, but doesn't make it quite exactly the way it should be, which ultimately becomes his doom. Also sounds a bit familiar from the MCU. I understand that some of these MCU movies follow a certain formula, but like when I'm starting to recognize copy and paste storylines that just have different skin on top of them, you know, a few things changed here and there, but they're basically regurgitating a movie that I've already seen, then it becomes a little problematic. Now on to what I don't like about this film, and there's only really one thing I don't like about this movie, and that is the very forced love story between Scott and Hope. I don't care about them at all. That's not earned whatsoever. It's just there to set up Ant-Man and the Wasp. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying about Hope Pym not really having much to do in this movie. She's just kind of there. She could have been easily replaced with another character. You can tell they want to tell more of her story, but in this movie, she's just there. She's there for setup for the next movie, and it's a little painfully obvious, especially when all of a sudden now they're in love. Nothing led up to that. And I don't believe it whatsoever. But the movie says, well, I don't care if you believe it. It's happening. So deal with it. So I dealt with it.
When did this happen?
Nothing's happening.
Whoa, hold on. Something's kind of happening.
Overall, this is a well-shot, crazy movie about a man who can shrink down to the size of an ant and also communicates with insects. Which, by the way, side note, maybe I'm wrong here, but does Ant-Man only talk to insects in Ant-Man movies? Because I don't recall him talking to insects in any of the Avengers movies. Am I right or wrong about that? And if I'm right, what the fuck? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks. This movie is funny, it's heartwarming, and it's a great popcorn film for the whole family. And the little things that I do have problems with this movie are easily cast aside when I just shut down my brain and just watch the film for what it is, a fun MCU movie. And for all these reasons, I'm giving this film a B+.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
There you have it, guys. My review for the first Ant-Man movie. Again, it's one of those movies that I just really enjoy. I really enjoyed it when it came out. I thought the cast and the writing was all stellar. I know there was some behind the scenes drama with Edgar Wright, but like, you know, his name's all over the film, so he got credit for what he did attribute to the film. That's enough about my thoughts. I want to know what you think about this movie. Let me know in the comments below. Are you excited for the new Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania film that's coming out? Also, be sure to check out some more of my videos. And as always, stay trigger happy, my friends. Peace.
Yeah, I don't know what you were doing grabbing and kissing me like that. I'm a little surprised myself. I have to get somewhere. I'll see you later, Hank. Really hope.
Scott,
Yeah.
you're full of shit.
Oh, yeah.